Hello there. My name is Joe Graves with Graves Thomas Injury Law Group. This is our introductory podcast. We try to put out some information for people that may have been involved in an accident or looking for information.
Thanks for introducing me. I'm Matthew Thomas. I'm Joe's partner,
Well,
and we're going to take some time here to talk to you guys a little bit about the law and about some areas that you have questions about that we see repeatedly in our practice.
yeah. Well, I was going to let you introduce yourself instead of just assuming that you wanted me to introduce you, but I'm willing to introduce you whenever you feel that I need to.
I like to get introductions out of Joe as much as possible.
This is Matthew Thomas. He's been my faithful partner for how many years now?
I've been your partner now for maybe 6 or 7, but I've been at the firm here for like 14 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. Time flies.
It sure does.
The firm's been in existence since 2005, so 21 years is our 21st year. And with 21 years comes a lot of experience. We've seen a lot of things. We've litigated a lot of cases together. And I think the importance for that is if I were a consumer, you know, the experience level of a lawyer, is extremely important. Facing novel issues in litigation or during a case becomes a little bit problematic. So, one of the things I wanted to make sure that when I started my practice is that I'd handled every type of case possible, that it was, wrongful death or whatever it was, or trucking or motorcycle accidents, things of that nature, slip and falls, because I didn't want the client to be, you know, me having to learn at the client's expense. And I've watched you've grown since the 14 years that you've been here. And, like I've told you many times, I wasn't looking for a partner. I always had my ideas of how I wanted to do things, but you've grown in tremendously. And now you're board certified. I mean, less than 2% of the lawyers in Florida are board certified. And both of the lawyers, myself and Matthew, are board certified civil trial lawyers. That means we get to call ourselves experts by the Florida bar.
Yeah, well, I just say that great senseis make great warriors. So, the teaching that I learned here, I think has helped bring me along. And I think in a modern world where we are inundated with so much information out there, if people do have questions, I want them to be able to know that they can come to us and get a straightforward answer that's going to be, honest and based off of our experience and knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, I wanted to do this podcast, because if you go on Google or the internet or some other search engine and you start looking for accident attorneys or information, about an accident, maybe you've been involved in an accident and now all of a sudden the adjuster's calling and there's insurance issues, and, maybe you know about it or maybe you don't. I mean, I think a lot of people that I see have paid premiums for years and paid for all these different coverages, but may not really know exactly what those coverages are for or what they, how they benefit them.
Yeah, the ominous full coverage description, I believe, is what it is.
Yeah, we've heard that many times. That
Yeah,
is probably
weekly.
the whole topic for a different day, but I hear that all the time. I have full coverage, and people, I think they must be told that by their agent that they have full coverage. But if you're in a catastrophic accident, $10,000 of BI is not, or bodily injury liability is not going to go far or do much. So
It's a misnomer, full coverage, because there is no such thing.
yeah. So, I mean, I think if I was in an accident or, just based on the clients that we've dealt with, there are questions that they have when they come here. And so part of this is to try to address some of those questions that we see on a regular basis. But, I don't think anybody expects that, they're going to be in an accident or they're going to sustain a life altering injury. And then all of a sudden someone finds themselves in that situation. And I think that it's terrifying. Maybe you can't work, your income's cut off, your car doesn't work, you can't get around. Your life becomes changed and altered. Um, I think that's like terrifying from the client's perspective.
Undoubtedly. I mean, it's got to be.
So, we want to talk about some of the issues that clients face and obstacles that they have to overcome, during the pendency of a case. But One thing that I really find interesting is that, we read about all the time about the legislature or laws that are being passed, and people don't really appreciate how those laws affect their rights and their access to courts.
Definitely. I mean, I think the insurance companies are definitely hoping for that when they go to talk to the legislatures to get these laws passed.
Yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind. Not advocating a political position here, but seems like as every year goes by, injured victims' rights are under attack, trying to be limited, reduced, taken away in some circumstances, and that'll be a whole topic for another day. But that's just something to be aware of. And so, the law is constantly changing. Getting a lawyer after you've been involved in something like an accident or whatever that's altered your life is extremely important. And then that's why we want to talk about our experience a little bit because it's important to get someone that's experienced that has seen basically every issue that's going to be thrown or every obstacle that's going to be put in your way by the insurance company.
Yeah, definitely, Joe, because I can tell you that there's a lot of people that are selling snake oil out there, and I get inundated with calls, and I spent hour on the phone yesterday with someone who is currently represented by a major firm, one of the largest firms, self-proclaimed in the country, and their experience is just horrible. And they're coming up on trial, and they feel their lawyer is inept, that he doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's sad because people can get um, misdirected or missteered by maybe something that is shiny, or that they think is something that's going to help them without really doing their due diligence to find out who these people are, who the lawyers are. Are they someone that you can connect with? Is there someone you can trust? And I think that if people do that work on the front end and do that due diligence, they'll ultimately have a better lawyer for it.
Yeah, that's an interesting issue that you bring up. And I think it's really confusing. Looking at advertising because how do you differentiate one lawyer from the next? Everybody advertises that they're the best or the greatest or they've had these tremendous results. And then they get in a situation like what you're talking about
Yeah.
with someone that's advertised themselves to be something and then they're not delivering on that promise.
I see it time and time again. You're right, and as the internet has become, the main segue for lawyers to advertise, I think we see it even more. I think it's even going to grow with the AI component. So it's really, really important that people go and do their due diligence on the front end. Because even though we can definitely help you climb out of that sludge that you may find yourself in your case down the road if you pick the wrong lawyer. Um, it's always much more difficult to repair some of the mistakes that we see other lawyers commonly make in certain types of cases.
Definitely. I mean, in any case, especially if it's a complicated case or a catastrophic injury case, there's evidence that needs to be secured. There's notices that need to go out to make sure that if the evidence is not in your possession, that it's secured by the opposing party. We have laws that require that, but you have to put them on notice, and there's things that have to be done on the front end if you want to be successful in the back end of the case, and that's getting it resolved, whether by settlement or by a jury trial. Um, so part of what we want to do is just talk about different issues that folks may encounter during and after an accident case and talk about different laws and policies and then offer some practical insights from things that we've seen over the years um, through our practice. I think some of it is demystifying some of the myths too about personal injury lawyers.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hope so. I hope that, I think that there's definitely a value to the insurance companies and to the corporate defendants to uh, push the narrative about personal injury lawyers that's negative. So to the extent that we can let people know that that's one, not our firm, but two, that we're their best avenue for help. I mean, that's great. I think people need to see that more, that it's, we're the ones representing the people, as opposed to the insurance companies, representing themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important that we're here in Vero Beach and that we represent our communities in Vero Beach, Port St. Lucie, and in Brevard, which are all in close proximity to our offices because they're our neighbors. I mean, we see them when we're out in restaurants, at the grocery store, getting gas. We have a duty to them. We have you know, I feel like, with our neighbors that we need to go above and beyond versus like someone that's from out of town or doesn't have the same interest in our community or the welfare of our citizens. So now just go ahead and tell us what makes Graves Thomas a little bit different than your typical personal injury firm.
I think that when you say typical personal injury firm, I know that there's lots of different ones out there. They're the ones we see on TV, and then there's the ones of, jacks of all trades, but masters of none. I think our firm is different because we find ourselves in what I would consider like the Goldilocks zone of being a law firm. We're both board certified. We're both accomplished. We both got uh, humongous verdicts, and we both have settled cases on a regular basis. And I think the two of us do it with an approach that's, like you said, it's community oriented, and it's the kind of representation and honesty that we could stand by when we see our clients, a year later in Publix, and that they come up and they tell us about how great of an experience it was, and how, in comparison to one of maybe their friends that went through a similar experience, which was terrible for them with their lawyer, and how happy they were. And so that's great that we're approachable. We're here to communicate, and I think given the smaller, like boutique approach of our firm with the resources that we have, really makes us special. And I'm happy because our firm's become the type of law firm that I know I would want to hire. And that's everything to me. So that's why I think we're different, because we'll look you in the eye, we'll tell you the truth. And even if it's not maybe the best news, we'll give you the options of how to proceed, and then take it with full steam ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned boutique firm. Um, can you expand on that?
Yeah, I use that term. I like it. It's boutique's a fancy word, but it's interesting because if you think about the law practice and the way I look at law firms, it's a lot like going to war, for someone that's not a warrior. Someone's never been in a wartime experience, but they need a military operation to help get them through this war. Or maybe it's you crossing a sea, and you've never done it before, but you need a captain in the ship. Um, yeah, you could go and get the biggest ship, or yeah, you could go and hire the biggest army, but are they truly connected? Is it just a group of Mongols? There's different analogies, but to me, the term boutique kind of puts us more, and I love to be able to say this, but puts us more like in a Delta Force type approach, or a Navy SEALs type approach in this war scenario, an analogy, or maybe a more nimble ship that is like the perfect size where you can still speak to your captain. You know that you have an elite team behind you, and you're not getting lost in a massive, cruise ship, or lost in a massive battalion. And I think that that's really important because it allows us to, again, just focus on the cases that we have, focus on our relationships with our clients, and be approachable, and known by the judges as well, and the other people in the legal community. I mean, whether it's from the defense firms, or the federal or state judiciary. I mean, we're well known and well respected, and so that to me is why I think we are boutique, because it's not such a large operation that we absolutely need, to get the money from all the various different clients really soon. It's a situation where, no, we can hold out if need be, if the insurance companies aren't being fair, just to make sure that the clients get the right result. And I love that.
Do you think a client's at a disadvantage for hiring a smaller firm versus hiring a bigger firm?
I don't think they're at a disadvantage. I would say that resources are important, and that's why I really, I mean, I said Goldilocks zone earlier because it's that sweet spot, not too hot, not too cold. There are solo practitioners out there who are trying to get into personal injury because maybe they've seen some of the success we've had, but they don't have the resources, they don't have the capability, they don't have the
When you
infrastructure.
say resources, what are you talking
I'm
about?
talking about money to finance cases. I mean, these cases, when people are catastrophically injured, if you want to go and hold a corporate giant responsible for that, yeah, you're going to need some money and you're going to need someone who's been there before, who's done it, who's battle tested. So having that financial capability um, to be able to progress these cases, but do it in the way that it's getting specialized attention. That's what I mean by boutique, and I think that sweet spot is extremely rare to find.
Yeah, I think that there is a thought process that people have that hiring a bigger firm is better, but in actuality, it's not because we get a lot of those clients that end up leaving those firms. And I think you probably talked to one just the other
And
day.
they never get any of ours. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. So, some of the complaints we hear is, the lawyer's never available. And some bigger firms, they don't even have a lawyer assigned to the case. It's all run by paraprofessionals.
yeah, non-legals.
And so I think having access to your lawyer is extremely important. And it becomes extremely frustrating because in the minds of the client, I mean, and they may not have any income. Medical bills are mounting up. Like, how am I going to get treatment? How I'm going to afford this treatment that's been prescribed to me. Um, and they want answers. And so I think accessibility, you may not understand if you haven't been in this scenario or been through a case how important that is, but we make ourselves available and we have all sorts of technology that we use to do that. I mean, we meet clients in person, we meet them on the phone, meet them by Zoom, whatever their preference is, wherever they are, whatever their need is. And I think it's extremely important what you pointed out. Really, when you're saying that a bigger firm may be better, you're saying, well, they have the resources that you talk about, but we have the resources of any firm. We've taken on Goliaths. We've taken on the biggest of insurance companies, the biggest companies. And, the other part of it is staffing and having the right number of support staff to make sure that all this information, I mean, during the case, you're gathering records and evidence and information. How is that information managed? When I went to Washington, D.C., and I see these big buildings of these institutions, and I think, like, how in the heck do they ever get anything done? All those people, it's just such a bureaucracy, so many people. And I think that you can run into that. Bigger isn't always better because it becomes, more of a bureaucracy. You may not have the lawyer available to you, but I think what's extremely important is the reputation. Do you file and litigate cases and have you had results at trial? I know when I was a defense attorney, I knew the lawyers that tried cases and were going to go to court, and yeah, their settlement values were higher because they know how to force the issue. They know how to submit the claim and present the claim in such a way that the insurance company listened. And that's really important. If you don't know those topics or those buttons to really push to get their attention, they may never come to their top value. They may never get to a reasonable value in the case. And that I think is extremely important. And I'm really proud of what we've built here, what we built together. I'm really proud of you. I mean, you talk about the sensei, but I mean, that you've grown to be something that I'm very proud of and beyond, what I have taught you. You have a thirst for knowledge. You research everything. You're always sending me cases. You're always looking at legal issues and presenting them. You like to, we always have discussions about them and we keep current on the things that are happening. And Matt, I'm just really proud to have you as my partner. And I love you like a son, and I'm glad you're here. And I think that we've accomplished great things together. and I look forward to accomplishing great things in the future.
Absolutely, man. Love you too. I can't wait for. I think the future is going to be a great thing for our firm, and that just means a great thing for our clients and our community.
Yeah. I think working together as a team is everything, and having an office that functions as a team and that's precise, and with the latest technology which we've invested in, it's only benefiting the client. Makes us more um accessible. It makes the case faster, cleaner, and just more efficient. And so I'm really proud of what the firm has become. We haven't remained stagnant. We're constantly upgrading and changing with the times to make sure that we're on the cutting edge of technology, and that we're doing and have the resources to do everything that our client deserves.
Definitely.